Hi everybody, we're going to be creating a animated scene in lesson 5 that deals with the galaxy. So what we need to do is first go through, normally read through this, but you'll notice that when you start, it says how to begin, starting in step 1, open the Click Team Fusion, and it says file open, and then it says open your file called last name underscore space file that you created in lesson 2. We didn't do lesson 2, so I'm going to walk you through how to get this file. First, you go back to lesson 2, and feel free to pause this video whenever you're ready or whenever you need to. Then it says you need to go to this website in order to download the files for Space. Right click on it. And then notice how under Software Basics it says Space Art. So if you click on Space Art, it opens up right here, Space Art. And what I'll do is click on that to open it up. And you'll notice it's Space Art MFA file. So this is the basically the multimedia application file that we're going to be using that deals with ClickTeam. So if we double click on that, it'll open up within ClickTeam. And my suggestion is if it doesn't look like my screen, if it doesn't, close the application. On your keyboard, hold down the Shift and Control button at the same time while you open it. And when you do, it will look just like mine. Okay, just like this. So now I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to title it what I was supposed to in the first place. So we're going to call it last name underscore space. And I'm going to go and save it in my documents folder. Otherwise, you may not be able to find it again. So documents, Gualinoni underscore space. I realize now that I just misspelled my last name. And I'm going to put it inside my games folder. If you don't have a games folder, you could just drop it directly into your documents. And I'll press save. Okay, so now I have the correct application. So it's called Space Art. If I open up frame 1, notice how I have stuff inside there. Okay, that's the first step. Make sure you have Space Art labeled correctly. Okay, next what we're going to be doing in our game is we're going to rename frame 1. So right click on the words frame 1, go to rename, and you're going to be calling it Inner Planets. Okay, so that's the next step. So you'll notice Space Art, Inner Planets. And once again, if you open that up, you have lots of stuff. And that's okay. We're going to move some of these around in a moment. So there's Inner Planets. There's a few things that we're going to have to change. So let me make this a little bit larger so you can see it. Inside here, if we do double click on it, it's actually not large enough to see everything. You'll notice that you have white space out here, you have a sun over here, and everything's just kind of out of order. So we need to first change a few things. By clicking on the application Space Art, you'll notice that it shows you your settings for everything here, including the window settings. So these are all called tabs. So click on window settings, and you want to change the size of the window to 800 by 800. So change each of these 800 by 800. So now I have an 800 by 800 window. And then when you choose your first tab, Inner Planets, I also want this to be 800 by 800. So you can change the size here, 800 by 800. That will change the look slightly as we open up and work with our Inner Planets. So everything should be 800 by 800. The application window also 800 by 800. If it's not, pause the video, go back and do that. And I will try to pause this guy. All right, next in your game or your Space Art, once you're on the global setting, so global setting means if you're choosing your application, we're not talking just Inner Planets here, we're talking about the whole application. We want to change our frame rate. Instead of 60 frames per second, which means it's fairly fast, we're going to go to 50 frames per second. We'll slow it down just a little bit. And then what we're going to do is open up your Inner Planets and choose Backdrop Object 2. And instead of that, we're going to rename it from Object 2. We're going to name it to Backdrop Space. Inside Backdrop Space, we're going to go to, I can't remember where the setting is. Let's see, Inner Planets, 800 by 800, Backdrop Space. Yeah, that's right. And then we already did the frame rate, which is the 50. So that's where we're at for now. So that's the next step for you. Okay, next we're going to be changing the location of some of our items. We're going to be dealing with it just kind of like on a graph where, let me show you a picture. On a graph, you have an XY coordinate system. So this is something just like in math. So you have your X coordinate, your Y coordinate. On this particular game, generally 0, 0 is going to be up here, and we're going to have positive X and positive Y when you're dealing with a game frame. So it's a little bit different than math, but it still uses X and Y coordinates, just the positive versions. So on here, we're going to be going to changing X and Y properties both to 0. So it'll be 0, 0 for the, let me show you, for our background. So wherever you are, just click directly on the background. You should see backdrop space is selected. Down here, you have a new thing for size proportion. You'll choose that one, so size proportion, and currently we have X0, Y1. We want X0, Y0. And then width height, you can better believe it, instead of 640, we want 800 by 800. So now we'll have the universe all the way there. Space will be the entire frame, 800 by 800. So go ahead and start there, 800 by 800, 0, 0. And then when you come back here, you'll notice that you have things that you need to do, setting the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and the moon to these X and Y coordinates. So go ahead and set there, as well as the width and the height. So pause and go find this page in your book, or you could just kind of keep this open. Make sure you set the sun at -50, 152, 50, and then the width and the height to each of these so that you'll have a correct universe or galaxy. When you're finished, it should look something like this. So just take a look and see if it does. 800 by 800, you have the sun. All the planets should be about that size if you haven't done anything different. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a new frame. So go ahead and a couple ways you could do this. I like doing it just by right-clicking on Space Art, and I'm going to create a new frame. I'm going to call it Gas Giant. And then after that, I'm going to right-click on Space, New Frame, and do Outer Planets. Outer Planets. Great, so I have Inner Planets, Gas Giant, Outer Planets. And what you're going to do is you're going to be moving some of these because not all of these are your gas giants. And so for instance, like Jupiter, we could just take Jupiter and drag it down to gas planets. And it should, I did that wrong. You're going to right click on it, right click on Jupiter, right here. Just heard the bell. There's Jupiter. Right click on Jupiter and hold on, here's Jupiter. So we click on Jupiter, Jupiter shows up here, right click and you press cut. There goes Jupiter, but then you go to gas planet and you go to paste. So right click on it and you're going to click here and go to paste. Click anywhere out here. There it is. So now we have Jupiter and the gas giant. Okay, you're going to be following that direction with, let me show you where you are in your book. This is step 82, 83, 84, and 85. So you can read them right here. But you're going to basically be cutting Jupiter and then Control X. You can use that. I chose the right click. But then you're going to be doing the Jupiter and moving it. And then what you're going to be doing is with Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, you're going to be doing the exact same thing, but moving them to the outer planets frame. So go ahead and do that. And that'll conclude the first video. And then we'll work through that with the second by making the planets actually move.